Hello. Oh, yeah, go live. One second. Sorry, I need to figure this out. Okay, we're about to go live on Facebook. There we go. Hello, hi, welcome to #Poetry Goes Viral, an online poetry reading curated by Carolina poets. Our goal is to bring poets who have a connection to the Carolinas, whether they're from the Carolinas, whether they live here, whether they teach here, maybe they just passed through one day and they used restroom here. We try to bring everyone who has a connection to South Carolina and North Carolina because we have a really amazing community of writers and legacy of writing in the area. Today I have three amazing poets with me today. They are Matthew Foley. Say hello, hello.
Hey guys.
Victoria C. Flanagan. And Janet Kozachek. I'm going to go ahead and introduce. So whether you're watching this now or you're watching it later, you can go ahead and jump into the comment section and throw some comments. If you're watching live, then the poets will be able to see the comments off to the side. So, make sure to tell some jokes and let them know that you are watching. I'm going to pull these fine folks off screen for a moment and take the time to introduce our first poet of the evening. Our first poet is going to be Matthew Foley. He's a writer, spiritual coach, meditation teacher, and podcast host living in Asheville, North Carolina. His mission is to use his love for poetry, spirituality, and the natural world to help others walk their path. Matt has a new book coming out called Mountain Medicine, which I'm sure he's going to tell you how you can order it. I have a couple of Matt's books. One that I had on the bookshelf beside me is, oh, wow, this light is intense. It's called This One Breath, which is cool to have around. And Matt is also the host of a podcast called A Path to Call Your Own. If you're like a spiritual seeker, if you're into meditation, poetry, into nature, it's a good resource to go and see some great conversations with thoughtful folks. Without further ado, welcome Matthew Foley.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Derek, for the introduction, and thank you to Carolina Poets for hosting this. So I am located in the Blue Ridge Mountains near Asheville, North Carolina. For those of you who might have connected with me through Carolina poetry over the years, might have seen me in Charleston. I was very much a Charleston, South Carolina poet for a long time. Made a move here to the mountains about a year and a half ago, and it turned out to be a really significant shift for me, a geographic move, a big personal move, and it turned out to be a very big artistic shift for me as well. And my poems that used to incorporate a lot of like ocean imagery living in Charleston, I suddenly found myself writing nonstop about mountains. And so I have a new collection that is just coming out right now called Mountain Medicine. I'm holding the proof copy right here in my hands. The first shipment of copies are in the mail to me as we speak. And I'll say a little bit more at the end about how you might get a copy if these poems resonate with you. The poems in this book are very centered or structured around cycles, the cycles of the seasons, the cycles of the day. And so it feels appropriate to begin this reading. And the book begins with a poem set at sunrise. So this is called Mountain Medicine, the title poem in the book. I watch the mountains wake, sitting cross-legged in the dark just before dawn. The birds begin their morning songs. A cardinal cries for its mate. A rooster in the distance wakes the whole valley. Light pours over the ridge line like a cup overflowing as the black outline of Mount Pisgah slowly turns to blue. Do you ever get lonely up there by yourself, they ask. The trees answer for me, waving in the cool breeze. The earth answers for me, giving roots to all my relations. It was the city that made me lonely, the crowded bars that broke my heart. I was sick to my soul before I found this mountain medicine. Now I breathe deep among the leaves, my heart near to bursting with the beauty all around me. No, I'm not lonely here at all, sitting cross-legged, watching the mountains wake. I'm free. The book continues with 4 sections devoted to each of the 4 seasons and different times of the day. I'm going to read one poem from each of them. The poem that's going to correspond to the spring is a poem called Spring Cleaning. I was really lucky to find a really beautiful house here in the mountains. And anybody who's known me over this last year and a half knows I'm very attached to my house. It's very much this physical extension of myself, and so I get a lot of joy out of cleaning the house. I feel like every time I clean and I straighten up my home, I feel clean and straightened out myself. So this is a poem called Spring Cleaning. I sweep the steps of the porch, timing my breath with the broom like a monk cleaning the grounds of the temple. I scrub the pots and pans, tend the tomato garden, and wipe the windows clean. Looking out the kitchen window, all I see is the new life of spring leaves. Green, green everywhere, until the green gives way to the blue of distant mountains. What more could I ask for in a temple? At every turn, I find something here worthy of worship, some new gift from God to glorify. Every inch of earth under my feet is an altar calling me to prayer. Tell me, Lord, where does your temple ever end? The poem for the summer, since the summer is a great time to get out for a lot of hikes. This is a poem that was written almost in its complete entirety in one sitting next to a waterfall. And it's called Holy Mother. And it's very much an ode to Mother Earth and that principle of the divine feminine, the sacred feminine that we find in the natural world, which I always find that in moments near bodies of water. And so this is called Holy Mother. The waterfall's rush rocks me like a child asleep in his mother's lap. I always find her in the flow of waves and rivers, the Holy Mother, and her open arms. I've called her by 10,000 names. O Gaia, Brigid, Mary, Kuan Yin, Shakti. But my heart knows each name is a cupped hand trying to hold the ocean. I'd rather dive into her depths, breathe within her beauty, let her soften my rough edges like these stones worn smooth by her kiss. O Mother, guide me like you guide the rivers to the sea. Hold me like roots as I rise from your soil. Show me how to give as you give, freely, with open arms, to all the children of this earth. All right. The poem from the fall section of the book is a short one, but it's definitely a poem that has a lot of meaning for me. Obviously, the autumn has a lot of symbolic association with letting go and releasing, as the trees are releasing their leaves. And this is a poem that I wrote a while ago, but I've made it a little tradition of sharing it online on the first day of fall, and seems to resonate with people. So this is called What the Trees Teach. When the days grow cold and the woods wear the colors of the sun, I envy the way the trees silently set free their leaves into the autumn wind. In my grief, I have carried the dead and dying leaves of seasons long gone. Let this be the day I open my palms and let them fall. Let me learn the lessons the trees quietly teach, that everything we've lost was not meant for us to keep. All right. So the winter section, or it's a section, it's poems invoking winter and the night. And since we're moving into the winter season, and we've entered into evening for today, it felt appropriate to read a few more poems from this section. So I'm going to go through these kind of quickly. This first poem is called First Winter, and it's about my first experience of a good snow day here in Asheville last winter. I'm a South Carolina boy, born and raised, Columbia and then Charleston. So snow is something I was not very familiar with growing up, and being here in Asheville, waking up to my first snow day, just like invoked this like childhood magic that was really cool to experience. So this is called First Winter. The morning snowfall covers over every inch of valley in the mountains beyond. The trees, so grim and bare yesterday, are alive, dressed in white light. Each of my footsteps sink with a crunch into the frozen earth, while snowflakes fall into my beard, my face lifted in wonder to the white sky. Nothing is as still as snow. No silence like the quiet of a world hushed by winter. Let my soul be this still when anger brings the storm. May my mind be this quiet when fear brings its thunder. Teach me your ways, O winter, and I will hold you like the trees, alive and dressed in light. Sorry for the phone call interruption there. Thought I turned off my notifications. This next poem is not really rooted in winter, but it's rooted in the nighttime. This is a poem that I wrote, physically very late at night, and it's definitely explores the theme of darkness and giving ourselves to the dark unknowns of life. And I'm really proud. I really like the writing in this poem and just some of the imagery. This is called The Way We Blossom. After 3 rain-soaked nights, the clouds slip away and the stars blink bright in the black sheen of midnight. An ocean crashes in my memories. We were night swimming under such a sky as this. Naked and free, I let the waves lift me and was rocked in the arms of a dark sea. How else do we make our way through a darkness but by trusting ourselves to it? We all learn to bow eventually to that great teacher, suffering. Before his death, the Buddha was visited by his old foe, Mara, god of desire, and they laughed like old friends. The Buddha knew who to thank for his enlightenment, not the sun at dawn, but the long night that taught him to awaken. In this garden, we grow best in dark earth, damp with rain. The seeds you carry will one day see the light, but only if you plant them in the dark soil of soul. This is the way we blossom. All right. That's just a personal favorite, I think, of mine. All right. So I'm going to read two more poems. And these two, if I had to pick, two poems that represented the real emotional heart of the poem, I would say it's definitely these two, and they're the final two poems of the book. This first one is called Mount Pisgah Blue, and I am really blessed to have a view of Mount Pisgah from my front porch, and so Mount Pisgah, it's interesting. It was a very sacred mountain to the Cherokee when they were the stewards of this land. And then it was renamed Mount Pisgah, which is one of the names of the biblical mountain where Moses first saw the Promised Land. And with this move to the mountains here near Asheville being a kind of personal move to my own personal promised land, it feels pretty significant to be living near a mountain called Mount Pisgah. So this is called Mount Pisgah Blue. There will be a storm tonight. I can already see the dark rumble of cloud above the ridge, the sundown sky turning purple over Mount Pisgah Blue. There she is, rising silent and still, mysterious as only a god can be. In one blink, she watches 10 million years go by, quick as a hummingbird. My heart once bowed to 10 million desires. My heart once broke for every last one of them. I thought I had grown wise when I could count my desires on two hands. But now I have only one, to watch this mountain and how she breathes so calm while all the world around her changes. She wears both the bright flowers of May and the cold snow of December as crowns upon her head. In sunlight, in rain, in blue sky, in gray, she simply is. Every morning, I bring her all of my problems. One by one, they drift away like clouds rolling through the blue. You don't have problems, she tells me. Only lessons you haven't learned yet. And I still have so much left to learn. Meanwhile, the sun has given way to stars and thunder roars above the ridge. My heart bows to her, rising silent and still as the night sky turns black over Mount Pisgah Blue. All right. So I have one last poem. This has flown by and it was so much fun. This poem is really special to me. This last one is called Where Your Soul Belongs. I wrote it very much in a period of my life where I was making the decision to move here. I was really feeling a call to make some big changes in my life, and I was looking for a place where I felt like I really belonged. And Asheville has always been a really special place to me. And I was driving up from Charleston to Asheville several times a month for a while, starting to look at houses and trying just to figure out what it might mean to move here. And I was out for a hike on one of those trips, and this phrase came to me on this walk through the woods of where your soul belongs, and just that notion of finding true belonging, not just in a geographic place, but to find a space in your life and community and a sense of purpose, finding that place where you really belong. And I was really fortunate. This poem, I just released a video for this poem. I had two really phenomenal collaborators, a filmmaker, my friend Raven McKevlin, and a musician, John Brewster, that helped me create a really beautiful video for this. So this will be the final poem, and then I'll just share one or two more details about the book to close out. So this is Where Your Soul Belongs. I know you've heard it all the days of your life. A voice quietly calling, a song for your ears alone. Over and over again, it has called your name, pulled you like the moon calls home the tide. It has drawn you to the quiet places, to green woods and rushing rivers, to holy mountains and deep solitude. Only in that silence can you hear what it has to teach. Like bird song on the wind, it whispers, you are free to leave behind all that has become too heavy for your heart. I know you were scared to unclench your fists and finally let go. You will lose much, my friend. Maybe everything on the way to your soul. But the caterpillar knows the cocoon means death, the price we pay for rebirth. You must die to every life not meant for you if you want to birth a butterfly. Your wings await you across the river and through the trees, beyond the blue, holy mountains, to that far country where the voice has always called you. May you follow it, wherever it may lead. May you follow it to the place where your soul belongs. And that's the final poem in Mountain Medicine. If you'd like to check out the video for that poem, it's up on YouTube. If you search for Matthew Foley, Where Your Soul Belongs, it should be pretty easy to find. I was really lucky to have a lot of really generous supporters back this book as a Kickstarter project. So the copies of the book are all coming into the mail to me right now. I'll be shipping those out to all the Kickstarter supporters, but it will soon be for sale on my website, apathtocallyourown.com. If you'd like to go ahead and place a pre-order, you're welcome to send me a message and I'll take your information, and I'll just be beginning to ship out books within the next 2 weeks. So if the poems from this collection spoke to you and you'd like to get the book, yeah, just reach out and we'll get a copy to you very soon. So I'm going to close up my reading here, and just so grateful to Derek and Carolina Poets. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Matt, very much. I just put the links to his work, including the video and website he mentioned, in the comment section below. Readers, you can see the comments off to the side now, right? Okay, cool. I had to fix some StreamYard stuff. I'm really excited to bring on our next poet. Our next poet is Victoria C. Flanagan. She's the author of Glossary of Unsaid Terms, which I also have right next to me. It was the winner of the Beloit Poetry Journal's 2020 Chad Walsh Chapbook Prize, which I think just closed for their submissions. They put out some really awesome books. Beloit puts out some awesome poems, and some of those poems were from Victoria. So it was really cool to hear about. I didn't know that Victoria was from North Carolina. It was very cool to learn that. I always love how poets get to know each other. I think I read that chapbook like while sitting in Greenville, South Carolina, like by a lake. I remember sitting there and reading it and being really blown away. So really excited to have her here. Her writing has been awarded an Academy of American Poets Prize, as well as the Emerging Poets Prize from Palette Poetry. And their work has appeared in the Adroit Poetry Journal, The Boiler, Verse Daily, New South, Blackbird, and Elsewhere. You know, I always hear about that literary journal called Elsewhere, and it feels like everyone's been published in it. They are a poet and essayist raised in a small town in North Carolina, which most of y'all watching are from Carolina. It's from she'll explain where it is Gastonia, right? Yes. Okay. Sorry. I had a total mental, like, it's called Beloit. It's not called Beloit. It's called Gastonia. And they are also the 2021 Ronald Wallace Poetry Fellow at the Wisconsin Institute for Creative Writing, which is where they are coming from right now. Please welcome Victoria.
Thank you so much, Derek. Thank you to Matthew and Janet for sharing the stage with me. Thanks to Carolina Poets for having me. And then, of course, anyone who's out there like tuning in, thanks for being here. I thought I would start with a few poems from my recent chapbook, which Derek sort of plugged for me. It came out over the summer, which was kind of a strange experience because my elevator pitch for this book is that it's a super sad book about cancer and gender. So I thought it was maybe a little fitting, but also a little terrifying to be like editing and distributing this chapbook in the middle of a pandemic. So it's been interesting sort of like fielding and talking about this, you know, in the current climate, if you will. So I'm going to start with a couple poems from here. The first one is Girl with Game Boy. So as backstory, when I applied to graduate school to soothe my soul, I bought a Game Boy Advance off of eBay, which ended up being a very good investment, as it turns out. So Girl with Game Boy. Growing up, I toured radiation clinics every few months, made the doomsday visit each time the doctor said Nora May was close. Bright machines, lead vests, kid-friendly proof of fact, billed as a grief group for cancer families. To see is to believe. Months, years here, and nothing could have saved her. Stooped men in gowns shuffled wide halls, lost boys pulled toward Linux, Tomo, while a counselor once more explained cancer is the body killing the body. My father'd quiz me all the way home. What did you learn? And I wouldn't sleep for days. Left, right, A, B till dawn, ticking frogs across a pixeled river. No, not so much has changed. I've stretched to 6 feet, but still sit knees to chest. I wait to be called, should be reading, answering emails, not darting this tweaked out hedgehog across a screen, ticking a D-pad through the months. 4 becomes 7, 8, 12. Each game save adds to guilt. I should have made a record. I should have something to say about bad lobby art. The office lights flicker, my 2-a-days of total body radiation. First visit, my doctor said, being sick takes practice. He promised, you'll learn. But here, for now, I'm the young gun, best case kid, brave one. And when other patients pass by, they say, honey, you'll grow old, like a right or a dismissal, like they mean it. Told you it was sad. It's not going to get better, so we're just going to keep on trucking. A lot of this book is set when I was going to grad school. That's sort of like the context for the time period in my life. So this poem takes place in Richmond, Virginia, and there was a restaurant that I would pass on my way home from campus called Food Dog, and they had just really delicious food. So I stopped there somewhat religiously, and it was kind of a hectic time in my life, as grad school I feel like usually is. But then I found out after the fact, as I was trying to write about it, of course, that food dogs are actually symbols of supreme luck. So I've always said I'm one of the luckiest people on the planet. That continues to be true. So this is Food Dog to go between rounds. Richmond, Virginia. 1. Dusk in March, and every shadow's doubled by streetlights. Long stretch of limb, body smooth and tossed aside. Profile creased to line drawing, I jaywalk for takeout. Curried rice noodles, gyoza with stripe of hot sauce. Pity dinner. Diagnosis makes before, makes since then, writes its timeline. I've been told I should expect extremes, quick switches, swings, the hormone side effects. I'm right on schedule. To swing is to sway, to change drastically, a coup or a landslide or a late game substitution. My noradrenaline Hail Mary, this dark parabola. Every now and then I miss the upside, hypomania squandered for restless mornings with someone I love, trying to convince myself to relish that there's no writable reason to work 17 hours, to run 12 miles, to scrub the stove, to bleach the sink, or pace the room and dread the airport drop-off when I'll watch him walk away, because he will walk away. She probably can't have kids, but there's hope with hormones that maybe, years from now, who knows? He must have thought I was out of earshot, primping down the hall when he said it. Leaving and parting, I know, are not the same. I couldn't help but wonder, feeding my parking stub into a kiosk, if it was the last time he'd see me. I had not told him my doctor called to follow up. Routine scans inconclusive. I know what it means when they need more blood. I know what happens next. To rise only as far as gravity permits. To return mercifully and inevitably to center. I give my name to the hostess guarding the brown bags. The windows' neon food dogs hawk good luck to the college students stumbling by. I must eat regular meals, must sleep and know this curse is biotic. Not him and not absence. No, it would have come either way. This neurochemical bottoming out just as inevitable. I swallowed the hormones for months. The doctor called it preservation, that I may one day bear a new and healthy body into the world, some kind of blessed erasure. But I refuse to doubt my chest swelling past side effect, past waiting room platitude, past this too shall stop happening to you, this too shall never reappear. As if I could will it, as if my chest weren't now far off and foreign, as if my body remained both a victory and my own. I reminded myself, you are living. Then 2 dense spots on the CT, they could be called inevitable too. Second cancer tempting, third casualty of a 2-a-days in a radiation clinic, benign masses, close calls. For weeks, I buttoned my shirts bottom to top, shaking. 2. To traverse, to aspire, to swing, make a fist, rear back and crack bone, let the ego speak. I'd prefer just the way it goes, over taken from us, over such a shame. Quit the highs and lows and live, not brave, not brilliant. I am spectacle, inevitable body. What else can I do? Time and again I have been lucky. I Google preventative top surgery cancer prevention. Waiting for my order, I Google top surgery versus double mastectomy scars. I Google top surgery paid for, health insurance, then top surgery psychological aftermath. No, speak plain. I am too terrified or lonely or arrogant or vain to knife off what could kill me, what would testify, attest publicly, prove that I have not come through unscathed, that every certainty I've ever had has fled. I know this body, which so often speaks for me, will not be spoken for. Will I get to make a choice at all? I spent 5 nights not saying, and he left. Maybe he said it so I would hear. Maybe he understood. Years from now, who knows? What would I give to know I've made it through, that it will all be over soon? I pay and tip. The hostess thanks me twice, then retrace the 5 blocks home. Twine-handled bag, heavy, a feet, a pendulum keeping time. What would I do to be rid of it all? What would I do to see 30? Prayer for the Self on I-24 West. Most days you dream of your native switchbacks, hairpins, climb, and low gear return, the inevitable reappearance in town, as they say. Those state roads, the province of your grandfather's haunting, his totems a spectral suite, haggard cassettes, gliding silver Buick, North Carolina plate stamped 5 o'clock. Nostalgia is easy enough. But this highway is straight and strange. 24 years, and this the one time you've struck out on a whim. The first, I guess, acquiescence to a 24-hour jaunt. Is it only when we go west that we ask ourselves who we are? In the lead car ahead, your friend doesn't know, your own coughs having woken you, that you did feel, did want her hand on the small of your back, palm impulsive in near sleep, because you stayed silent and still. This denial, typical. You chase down the recital of self. 80 miles from Nashville, this road is an arrival, a paying up. What would be blessed if you allowed it? To list misstep without caveat, call callousness and fuck-ups by their names. Xenius, reshrouded as woman, write yourself and live what you have earned. When the time is right, petition the rift between backwoods beginnings and a red-lipped profile picture. Say it aloud so that you yourself may hear. God, the Father of my obligations, let me trust my mongrel tongue. Give me strength to speak, to risk, and let me be more than that which raised me. Feet to flame, admit I have frightened myself into cruelty. This, above all, is true. I thought for the last couple, that was a lot, I know, thank you for bearing with me. I thought for the last couple I'd dip into what I'm hoping will be my next project, which actually centers a lot more around North and South Carolina. So it seemed fitting to talk about it now. So in this project, it's a full-length poetry manuscript, hopefully. There are dueling voices. So there's the voice of an orchardist who kind of like a down on his luck guy, based roughly on, people I knew and grew up around. And then it's the second voice that's sort of opposite to that one is one of the more like well-known physicists on the Manhattan Project. So it's kind of this this question about like what, how are you going to live life, and sort of how sometimes an intellectual life, which feels like the one that I get to lead, again, I'm pretty lucky, sometimes also doesn't feel particularly useful. So this is part of a series spoken by the orchardist, and it's just called Orchardist at Home. I say I dreamed the old Haley mine split open, Rained blank copper coins and rock salt, and a whole host of brown cardinals flew north toward Pisgah. The 2 hot butter pops in the pan, and she doesn't turn around. Back 2 months from my state-sponsored Bardo, and she still won't speak before noon. But the sun's coming up quick, like Mother used to say as she sent us to bed. She said, nothing in the world to be afraid of, and then, first thing, get to work, boy. Down the road, Pa joining the stripe of pickers headed north to Macby. All those mule men, those roughneck ambassadors of the season cycle, day wage, summer crop. The collective mumble, there but for the grace of God, each day. Best not look away, sugar, she said, and slit the gray-pink throat of a sow. Now I can tell the size of the pit if I hold the peach tight. Boss says land always needs tending. Doesn't matter much who does it. Kids come by the busload and do cartwheels between the trees, heels sliding on dropped fruit, and I think of Mother singing absent-mindedly to the hens. I say, it's good to think the marvelous might still happen, even if you know it won't. And my girl throws scraps to the dog, sits cross-legged at the table with a plate, says, crazy ain't it, without looking up. And then this is going to be my last poem for y'all. So when I was thinking about things that I could read, I was thinking a lot about the things that are very centered in place. And this is a project I've been working on for a while. It's about my hometown, Gastonia, pretty specifically. And it's got a bit of historical summary, I guess is what I would call it, that functions as an epigraph. So I actually found out this week that I got picked up by the Appalachian Review, so you can read it soon. But I'm actually also, for the record, in the middle of researching for this book project. So if anyone out there in the universe is interested in chatting about like North Carolina life, let me know. This is Aria for My Hometown. This is the epigraph. Gastonia's Luray Mill strike of 1929 was one of the most notable labor strikes in United States history. In the strike's aftermath, 71 strikers were arrested. 8 strikers and another 8 members of the National Textiles Workers Union were indicted for the murder of Police Chief Orville Aderholt. On September 14th, a truck carrying 22 strikers was chased down and fired upon. One female striker, Ella Mae Wiggins, was killed. Though the strike failed to result in better working conditions and wages, the strike's controversy gave the national labor movement a lot of momentum and propelled its federal development. 1. This is all simulacra. Strikers gone almost a century, Luray Mill flipped to high-class lofts, factory muck and truck beds loaded with bodies, all of it shoveled over. I know this place forgets. Down Beatty, Preacher Bailey eyes the newspaper down the drive. A request, maybe. Forgive. These are the things I'm made of. Idling red and rusted 250. The cap's mare put up and a fire lit. The exhale of a midnight flatbed headed for the state line. Long gone, I dream of my home church's stained glass, the overlook where I'd watch planes take off and land, miraculous as ever. I demand if I could beg it. Take me as I appear. Let me leave this place behind. But I get an email. Someone's raised up luxury, bought the shuttered plant, and suddenly it's Luray Mill Village, script font shouting a move-in special, $99 deposit. Already, they can't fill the place. The complex boasts shops, a wine bar, events hall, an on-site history center. I wonder, is it there they list the 1,000 surnames marked by the walkout? Memory's arbitration laid bare. What of the 1,800 workers who wouldn't bend to cut hours, stretch outs, families evicted by foremen? Are there photos in the gleaming lobby of the marching National Guard? Or snapshots from the organizers' march on the night shift? I imagine the decorators have gilded, reframed the police raid on the strikers' tent city, violence disguised as charm. Is it like catching or something? Violence disguised as charm. This town could use some heroes now and then. One dead chief, 16 men indicted for murder. Life revolved around the mill, the site croons. Families worked together and knew one another personally. These days, we claim only what serves us. Skylights, premium countertops, tanning center. The real math of 29. 10% of my hometown was on strike. Did the 16 or the 71 arrested in a single day know one another personally before they were hauled off? Stop me if you know. When the judge declared a mistrial, labor leaders' truck chased down, did Ella May see the bullet coming? Headed east, Bessemer City to Gastonia, did she hum as her blood stained the bench seat? Did she pray softly for her unborn son? How many men does it take to kill cruelty? How many men till I know? 2. Call it a curse, call it inevitable. I, too, forget. My grandfather and his father's father ran production lines and watched from a mile away, down Marietta and just off McCarver porch of my childhood Saturdays, great-grandmother thinking none of us wise to her stash and habit, post-industry houses wilting. Daughter of such unspoken names, I go home these days for burials. Remember what the land allows. Down here, we chain our dogs to a lead, let them run bare patches in ryegrass. Girls grow up waiting for the grip of a man's hand on the throat. We learn a bruise isn't the same as a beating. We jump, ritually, from Buster Boyd Bridge to Lake Wiley below, trusting the water's deep, that we've not lost track of seasons or drought. Jump and come up laughing, water January cold. We smoked milds behind mulch fields, drifted among shopping centers sprawled like burdock, pretended not to notice as years passed. High school kids nodding out on the greenway. We skimmed through youth. Lighters click and sizzle in bathroom stalls. A rusted brand of pride, freshly 15, I woke to a cold body. 16, I dipped into the back of the drawer just to get out of bed. What else was there to do? I spat jargon, skag boy, bear slam, Ross Mac dope, but called it the burden of place. Some ghost moan in pills rattle, a turning away, the steady refrain, surely not my child. Is it a wonder that when I'm asked where I'm from, I say the name like an apology? All these stories I refuse to tell close by. Every mile north, a fleeing of my anonymous body, dope sick and dumped in an ambulance bay. Every mile back, a duty and a debt. Who, if anyone, can I rescue? I do the only thing I know, dedicate my time to the names I know well. I will speak these low country rights. For Alex, Corinne, and Petey, and Ashley, and CM, and Chado, Mike, Becca, Jess, Big Ray, AJ, RJ, JR, for the mother of the starving child next door, let the reckless learn to look. Let us disrupt. For Angel, Jordan, Drew, Anna, Hannah, Parker, Nat, and John, let me remember and outrun. For Spitz and Hughes and Rachel, Liza, Dom, for Dom and Alex always, I will remember. I will arrive when called, days on the road, and learn a freshman drowned under the bridge last May, the depth, like all else, deceptive. Ruled an accident, and so many of us know better. These are the things I am made of. We say nothing out of fear. Old friends drop in, reminisce. How could any of us know what to make of it? Mercy is a blade, a Dopplered yell. All the while, a trash pile smolders, a hound barks once, and my cell phone waits there in the pastel kitchen, in anticipation, a squib load poised on the foreman's desk. That's all I got. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Victoria. That was really, really incredible. If you want to find their work, I put the link to the chapbook, Glossary of Unsaid Terms, in the comments below, so you can go check that out. And I'm really looking forward to your work on some Carolina history, especially if it's about strikers and other cool things like that. Our final poet of the evening, I met through the internet. She is from South Carolina, in Orangeburg, South Carolina, or lives in South Carolina, not from South Carolina. But, I know that all of us are tired of Zoom calls and tired of being online. But, the internet, man, has been this saving grace. And I feel like has really connected us with so many different people, especially arts communities. One thing that I really love, for example, is the ability to take workshops with writers I would have never been able to take workshops from because, they live in New York or California or Paris. And now I can just go onto Zoom and take workshops with these amazing writers, see them read. And one of those people I met via an internet writing group is our next reader, Janet Kozachek. She is an artist with a capital A. She does ceramics, she does painting, she does poetry, as well as lots and lots of other stuff. She got her MFA from Parsons School of Design in New York and also studied at the Central Academy of Fine Art in Beijing. She lived and studied in China for 5 years. Her artwork has been shown. I'm about to name some really impressive places. The Morris Museum of Art, the South Carolina State Museum, the Columbia Museum of Art, shout out, the IP Standback Museum, the Calhoun County Museum, and numerous other private collections. She has multiple books and stories and poems out in the world, one of which is a book for cats called The Book of Marvelous Cats, which sounds awesome. And the other one is a illustrated poetry chapbook called My Women, My Monsters. I'm going to be helping Janet by bringing up some of her artwork as she does. So whenever she tells me, hey, Derek, pull up this artwork, you're going to see some of her art, which will be a fun visual component of this reading.
Okay, is it all right to run over? I see it's almost 8.
Yes, totally.
Oh, okay. All right. Just checking. I'll try to be quick. Thank you again for inviting me. This is really exciting. So many things have changed this year. I had a book reading lined up in March, and of course that fell by the wayside with the pandemic, as well as my summer coursework at McDaniel College. And so it's great to have another opportunity to give voice to these poets and these poems and images. Okay. One poem is not mine, not my painting, but it's interesting because it relates to one of the bright sides of quarantine, if you could call it a bright side. Most things aren't, but being sequestered away made me, I think, start to notice little things, even little things around the house, like a painting that I'd purchased a long time ago in the 1980s while I was a graduate student, painting of 2 birds. And there was a nice piece of calligraphy that was very complex and hard to decipher. So I finally decided to take a crack at deciphering it. and was helped by Professor Tan Ye at USC, because he was able to pick out at least just enough words for me to piece something together. And he translated it into regular Chinese script, and from there, with the help of dictionaries and tables, I was able to find a meaning for it. And it turned out to be something a bit apropos, because it's about competition, and it's about having sort of a partisan divide, which we know our country is in now. So if we pull up the painting of the two birds, I will translate at least the general meaning. Those are the two birds. And it basically says something like, peep, peep, face to face they tussle for a crown. Underneath a flower, they size each other up like mates in an arranged marriage. But they're nurturing a calamity. With wings to fly towards aspirations for fame, still as a chicken or a duck, they'll only see the grating that contains them the same. All right, now if we scoot over to the calligraphy, what was fascinating to me about reading it in Chinese is I realized it was a song, and this painting had been silent on my walls all this while, and suddenly it started to sing. And I realized when putting it together, it has a really nice little rhythm, and it was meant to be sung, and it was meant to be a gift song, and it was written as a gift by a one Chun Lin, and he wrote it to an older classmate of his. He was either in a class or in some kind of monastery, and it's dedicated with a term of endearment for an older male friend. So that's kind of interesting as well. So to hear what it sounds like, this will be the first time anyone's heard it, in maybe over 100 years. I'll sing it for you. Okay, here it goes. 阶阶对影斗难惯，画下行情不如难。如意金强明飞去，笔随疾不一同看。So we see Chinese has nice lively rhythm. All right, and so my next source of inspiration came from something sad, the pandemic, of course. It's very difficult to know how to make sense of it all, and how to embrace the enormity of it all. I know sometimes we have to hide our heads in the sand a little bit and get away from it, and other times we really do have to face it. And so in order to face it, I decided to read a lot of the obituaries in the New York Times to see if anything jumped out at me and caused me to make sense of things. And I did find one that was unusual, interesting. It was a 102-year-old man who had passed away from the coronavirus, which in and of itself is not too unusual. I mean, people do live to be centenarians, but what was striking was that he had a twin. He was a survivor of an identical twin. And this identical twin was taken away in infancy during the 1918 pandemic. And so I thought this was really an amazing thing, that someone could, someone's life, personal life, could be bookended by these two great events. And so I will look at that. the charcoal drawing I actually did a long time ago for another chapbook called The Plagues, and seemed very apropos, but it especially seemed appropriate for this particular poem because it's an old man and a baby. And so here's the poem for that. It's called Plague Child. Child of the plague dons his strung-up bonnet with his button-down robe and descends upon the unprotected. Helpless, vulnerable, incredulous, the once confident, hale, and healthy fall like hollow toys before mindless fragments of biology, little machines of codes that instruct to destruct. Child of the conqueror plague steps down upon a barren soil, littered by the fallen, wiped clean of human touch, their once warm breaths replaced by cold stillness, their once limpid eyes staring blankly from desiccated sockets. Little sapling cut down by plague returns to claim a brother's full and fruited life. The babe bears the gift of those last few missing links in a chain of inheritance, paired again by the quiet ceasing of a heartbeat. They rest, united in identical identity once again. Okay, and the next poem, I said we're going to move along pretty quickly because I know we don't have a lot of time. This one, it comes from my book, My Women, My Monsters. It's published by Finishing Line Press this year. And I've selected one that is a little bit, well, it is, of course, sardonic. It's a satire on the prosperity gospel and positive, the power of positive thinking. It's called Twinkle Tinsel Toes. The twinkling tinsel-toe fairy arrives in a puff of glitter, dressed in white chemise, bedecked with tiny silver bells. Her pink rose petal lips part seductively. She smiles through pearly teeth trimmed in iridescent gold. Twinkle tinsel-toe fairy loves the dreams of the impressionable. She dances in pirouettes upon their heads and throws starry dust into their eyes, crooning to them that all can be had for the simple wishing for it, and that belief in her magic makes it so. With a touch of her wand, the semi-literate believe that they are educated men and women of a lettered meritocracy. Fairy applauds their self-esteem as they frame their imagined accomplishments and hang them on a wall. Twinkle Tinseltoe Fairy exhorts the penniless to reside in mansions filled with the stuff of their dreams, imbibing in the milk and honey of their wide-eyed desires. They settle into comforts purchased by hope and air. She tells the average to shoot for the stars. The world is theirs for taking, she says, and greatness is within their grasp. They dance, they sing in center stage for audiences silently watching, only each other in mirrors. Twinkle Tinseltoe Fairy informs the dying that they have decades of healthy life ahead. She tells them to have faith in her. Their blood will be cleansed, their tissues purified, and pain will never be. Her fee is small for such largesse. She chortles in falsetto. Gathering her followers, she raises her sparkling wand. She cheers their illusions, applauds their delusions, and waves a hand, and poof, they all are gone. All right. Now I have one last very quick poem from the Book of Marvelous Cats. This was published by Lulu a while back, and it came from a group of illustrations I made of fantastic cats that would that help people out for every possible situation and need. And this one illustration is called the bouncer cat, and it's a giant cat that removes unwanted guests and unpleasantries from your house. And it's a very short little doggerel, even though it's just a cat. And then it goes like this. It's the bouncer cat. When a guest becomes a bore, then bouncer cat shows him the door. Your house will never host a slob when bouncer cat is on the job. And I'm thinking of putting 2020 on that man's hat or something else. But that's all. That should give you a little sampling of my my work. And thanks again. And it was a pleasant evening. I really enjoyed making everyone's acquaintance and hearing such beautiful work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janet. I'm going to keep this bouncer cat up on the screen for a little while longer, just because I love looking at it. Thank you to Janet, Matthew, Victoria for coming and sharing your work. I'm really excited that you agreed to do this. And if you are still watching, share this video to your social media pages. It will be saved to the Carolina Poets page in an archive so that you can go back and visit it and continue to share it. Oh, sorry. Oh, did I do that right? Okay, sorry. I accidentally brought you back on the stream. I want to let you know about next week. So Carolina Poets does this series every Thursday at 7 p.m. And I'm looking at our schedule right now. I believe that who is hosting next week? It is going to be Andrew K. Clark. And I think someone is in the chat right now who's going to be reading next week. It's Barry Dixon, Chris Menezes, and Zarina Frey. So you can look forward to that reading next Thursday at 7 p.m. Until next time, read some poetry, buy poetry for some independent bookstores, and stay safe. Bye, y'all.